it is not unusual that a prime minister hasn't finished his term. Since the establishment of the state of Pakistan, I don't think any prime minister has completed a term. Pakistan has had 29 prime ministers since 1947. None completed a full 5-year term.
This is absolutely true, Amy. And one reason they didn't complete their terms is that the military took over at key points of the country's history. We've had 3 military coups d'etats, one that led to the breakup of the country as it was in 1947. This happened in 1971. And subsequently, Nawaz Sharif, whose brother is now the prime minister, his ham-fisted attempt to retire the chief of staff, General Musharraf, by kidnapping him and not letting his plane land, led to Musharraf's military coup, which stayed in power for several years. So we've had a very tormented political history in that country. And I think one thing which we should remember is that regardless of whether there is a military coup or not, the military plays a central role in the country in its foreign and defense policies, and often in deciding who becomes prime minister and who doesn't. Anyone who's been prime minister in the 80s and 90s will tell you that. There's constant advice, stroke interference from the army. So as far as Imran is concerned, he had not got a majority in the election he won. And these tiny parties, which usually do the bidding of the military, were, lined up to provide him with a majority. The opposition, which is no better in my opinion, it's wrong to present them in any way as offering any real alternative in that country, has been clamoring for 3 years for a vote of no confidence. Suddenly, it happens, and these parties that had been organized to back Imran withdraw their support. His own party is split. One thing has to be said. If you ask, has the PTI government achieved anything, I would say no. It's faced tough economic problems, it's gone to the IMF, all that is true. But it had no vision at all, just like the other political parties in the country. So it became like them. And all the promises of modernizing Pakistan, changing it forever, amounted to nothing. At the same time, corruption continued, including from Imran's family. His latest wife, Bushra Bibi, has a circle of friends around her who've made pots of money by appointing a complete imbecile as chief minister of the Punjab. So all these things began to weigh up. Now, the question Imran is saying, the Americans got rid of me. Well, they may have, we don't know. And by the way, there's never paper evidence when the United States decides to remove a regime, except 10 or 15 years later, unless WikiLeaks releases it. So it's not impossible that the United States expressed displeasure, because Imran had described the 20-year occupation of Afghanistan as an American mess. That didn't please the State Department. On the Ukraine, he took a position similar to that of India and China. That didn't please the United States. And General Bajwa, talk about democracy. General Bajwa issues a foreign policy statement clarifying Pakistan's position on Ukraine the same week. So it wouldn't surprise me if the United States said he's becoming a nuisance or something like that. I mean, they're well known to topple governments all over the world. But I don't think that this is the central issue. The central issue is the incapacity of the PTI government basically to do anything for the country. And when you announced the name of the new prime minister, Amy, my heart did sink, because these are people who've exercised power before. These are politicians. And that was Imran's tragedy. He became just like them. These are politicians who can never hear the sobbing of the weak, never hear the sobbing of the poor. They basically come into politics, make lots of money, see who's making more money than the other. There's a competition to make money. Pakistani politics is being totally embroiled and imbricated in the making of money. The two dynastic parties, PPP and the Pakistan Muslim League, and lately the PTI, as well as the smaller parties. So this is a tragedy, and I don't think any change of government is going to solve that problem.
Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu rasulullah wa ba'd. In the name of Allah, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon his last and final messenger as to what follows. Family, friends, foes, haters, and hateettes, welcome back to the Feachaz. I greet you all in peace and love with no hatred in my heart. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So now, please, before we begin, please like, please subscribe, and please share. As you know, we got a lot of haters up in here. And we are live, and we are talking about this particular topic that I was thinking deeply, should I deal with this? Because it is a very, very important topic, and I wanted to give it its justice. And I didn't want to, essentially say something and it wouldn't be, relevant or incorrect or something like that. I wanted to give this topic is just because it is a very, very, very important topic, and it doesn't just affect Pakistan, it affects the entire planet. So like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Patreon, and let's get into it. Have I ever told y'all about O'Neill? Did I ever tell you guys the story about O'Neill? I don't think I ever told you guys the story about O'Neill. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys a story about O'Neill. When I had just become Muslim, I was either 17, I'm 16 or 17 at this time. Okay, I was in high school, and I had a friend in high school, and his name was O'Neill. Okay, now, if you seen O'Neill, you would say O'Neill is a very unusual name for this man named O'Neill. Why is that? Why do you ask that? Because O'Neill was a dark-skinned Indian-looking dude. And I'm wondering in my head, well, how did O'Neill get this name O'Neill? Right? It didn't make any sense to me. But O'Neill was into martial arts. And he's a little bit older than me. He's about the age of Abu Shahad, if y'all know Abu Shahad Abdashid. I think maybe he's 1 year younger than Abu Shahad, maybe. Right, a little bit younger than him, but definitely older than me. So I go over to O'Neill's house, and then I see that O'Neill has white parents. Darker than me. Okay, O'Neill's darker than me, Indian looking, but he got white parents. And I was like, what is going on here? And he's calling this white lady mom and everything. I'm looking at the white lady, I'm looking at O'Neill. I'm like, this is not your mama. Okay. So I'm curious, I'm young, and I asked O'Neill. I said, O'Neill, what's up with this? How do you have white parents and whatnot? And O'Neill told me his story. Okay. O'Neill said that he was adopted, and he told me he doesn't know anything about his mother at all, but he is originally from Bangladesh. And there was a war in Bangladesh, and his mom was raped in that war. And from that rape, I hope our channel doesn't get demonetized now because I said that word, but y'all better like, subscribe, and share. He was conceived. Now, that was the first time I ever heard about Bangladesh. I didn't know what Bangladesh was. The only thing I know about Pakistanis at that time was that white folk used to call brown looking people Pakis. That was it. I didn't even know there was a country called Pakistan. Okay. They're just Indian looking people to me. Right. So that was the first time I ever heard about Bangladesh. So I didn't know anything. Like back in those days, there's no internet or no Google or anything like that. So I really didn't know much. But as years went by, and you start meeting more Muslims, you start meeting more Pakistanis, Bengalis. And as years went by, I started, because I remember my friend O'Neill, I did some research about Bangladesh. And I was totally shocked. I was stunned at what I found. What did you find, Bilal? Well, I better not say it, because if I say it, y'all are going to say that I'm capping. So what we're going to do, we are going to watch this together. And I found this out years ago, and I had alluded to this on this channel, actually. I mentioned it in passing in several videos about this war that O'Neill was conceived from. Okay, so we're going to watch this video. Okay, like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Patreon.
This is Bangladesh. It's probably not a country you've heard a whole lot about. Maybe that's because it's kind of hard to see on a map. Geographically speaking, Bangladesh is a small place, about as big as the state of Illinois. But when it comes to population, Bangladesh is the 8th largest country in the world, with 170 million people. That's 25 million more people than all of Russia. Bangladesh's capital, Dhaka, is the 9th largest city on Earth, more populated than New York. But a few decades ago, Bangladesh wasn't officially called Bangladesh. It was actually a wing of another country, Pakistan, and it was called East Pakistan. And there's a really terrible story about how it got there.
A subcontinent larger than the whole of Europe becomes two self-governing dominions within the British Commonwealth of Nations.
In 1947, as British India was becoming independent, the British government announced the subcontinent would be split in two. In the center, there would be a Hindu-majority country called India, and outside it, with wings on the east and west, there would be a Muslim-majority country called Pakistan. East Pakistan was populated mostly by Bengalis, people from this big region here, which had been split between east and west in the partition. West Pakistan was populated mostly by Punjabis, Pashtuns, Sindhis, and a few other ethnic groups. Separated by over 1,000 miles of Indian territory and demographically and culturally split between groups from opposite ends of South Asia, this was a really weird arrangement. In the years following independence, it turned out not to work too well for people in the East. Even though East Pakistan had most of the country's population, they were shut out of the levels of power. The central government was dominated by people from the West. The real power in the country was the armed forces, and Bengalis only constituted about 5% of all military personnel. East Pakistan was treated as an internal colony of the West. The export earnings of its agrarian industries were siphoned off by the central government, and the region was neglected in terms of spending. And there was no better symbol of the East's subservient position than language. Because even though East Pakistan was a majority of the country's population, its most common language, Bengali, was given no federal status.
So we see here that colonial powers essentially set up a colonial proxy between Bangladesh, what we now know as Bangladesh, and Pakistan. That whole entire system is a copy-paste system of imperialism. Who set it up? White folks. Who made the borders? White folks. Who made this arrangement? White folks. Okay? But this is just the beginning. It gets a lot worse. Watch out now.
Bengali speakers were treated like second-class citizens. So in 1970, Pakistan held national elections, overseen by a military dictator named Yahya Khan. And it was on the basis of this inequality between East and West that a Bengali nationalist party called the Awami League swept the election. Led by a charismatic guy named Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the Awami League won an outright majority, not just in East Pakistan, but in all of Pakistan. Rahman was set to become prime minister of the entire country. But to the Pakistani government, that wasn't acceptable. Yahya Khan thought that a Bengali party couldn't be allowed to form a government, so he refused to accept the results. Of course, this did not go over well in East Pakistan.
The bitterness of poverty and resentment in East Pakistan erupted today in a kind of civil war. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the leader of East Pakistan, declared the region an independent republic, which he said will be called Bangladesh.
The Pakistani government was furious. So the next night, they launched their response, a campaign they called Operation Searchlight. They branded it as a program of pacification to calm the situation and return things to normal. But their real plan was different. Mass murder on an unimaginable scale. And that's where the United States comes in. Bangladesh was not just another story about the problems of post-colonial states and artificial borders. This was a story that took place on an international scale. It became a violent theater of the Cold War, one in which America played an active role. Yahya Khan was a close ally of America's president, Richard Nixon. Nixon and his Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, loved that type of right-wing military dictator.
We've been telling you this from who knows how long on this channel. All of your dictators are handpicked by Zaddy. And y'all think that overthrowing the dictator is going to somehow give you freedom, when all they're going to do is put another puppet in the place of that dictator. This really happened. But wait, there's more. You want to know why Pakistan is a military power? Listen up, y'all.
Nixon even called Khan, quote, a good friend. So in the 1960s and 70s, the Pakistani regime became one of the largest recipients of American military aid in the entire world.
What was that? What was that? This is why the Pakistani military decides who's going to be the prime minister. Because the Pakistani military is the American wing of military force in South Asia. Holla if you hear me.
Most of the planes, guns, bullets, and bombs that Pakistan was now flying into Bangladesh had been generously supplied to it by the United States. And with those American weapons, Pakistan unleashed a campaign of absolute terror, today recognized as one of the most ruthless genocides of the entire 20th century.
Now West Pakistan, which also has most of the army, is trying to crush the revolt. There are reports of many casualties in Dhaka and other East Pakistan cities.
When they arrived in Bangladesh, Pakistan soldiers put the city under strict martial law. Rahman was arrested, and any Bengali thought to support him was murdered. Yahya Khan personally gave the orders. Kill 3 million of them, he said, and the rest will eat out of our hands. Dhaka became a particularly gruesome sight. Huge sections of the city were bombed. Pakistani soldiers set older parts of the city on fire with flamethrowers or bulldozed entire blocks flat. At the university, soldiers massacred students and teachers. Within a few weeks, about 75% of the population of Dhaka had fled. But the Pakistani military didn't just stop there. The Pakistani army and its collaborators went into the villages.
People say the soldiers went wild, that they chose people at random, women, men, babies, shot and ran them through with bayonets. All the women, the people say, were raped before they were killed, and their husbands and children were made to watch their mother's degradation.
Remember my story about O'Neill? I told you about in the beginning? This is where O'Neill comes from. Y'all hearing me? This is how O'Neill was conceived, from this. But why is this so important, Bilal, for this particular topic? Because O'Neill is maybe 1 or 2 years older than me. That means that his father is probably still alive, as well as hundreds of thousands of O'Neills just like him in Bangladesh, in Europe, in Canada, and in America, those who got adopted by white people just like O'Neill. Maybe some of those soldiers became presidents of or prime ministers of Pakistan. There's some of them are your grandfathers, your uncles, 100%. And you mean to tell me y'all talking about Pakistan being the next Medina? You are tripping. You are straight tripping. Anything Zaddy tells you to do, you do. If Zaddy tells you to go kill, rape, murder, whatever, you're going to do it. Bangladesh is a country, what, like 50 years old? Let me ask you something. The last video I did about this, I said the Bengalis are the niggas of South Asia. Did they, after their independence, did the conditions get better for Bengalis? And if they didn't, then why is it? Why do you think conditions have not improved for Bengalis? Y'all talking about puppet leaders and democracy and stuff. one, I'm not going to re-mention his name, but I did a video about it. One sheikh went all the way to Britain and told Muslims that it is wajib to vote. You must vote. It is an Islamic duty to vote, to participate in these devil's systems. Y'all play too much. Y'all play too much. Anyways, let's continue, shall we?
The numbers are staggering. At least 300,000 Bangladeshis were murdered, and perhaps as many as 1 or 2 million. Between 200,000 and 400,000 Bangladeshi women and girls were raped.
Did you hear how many? You're talking about 200,000 to 400,000 women raped. Muslims doing this to other Muslims. The children of those rapes are still alive and around today. 100,000 children or 200,000 children is an entire city of half Bengal and Pakistani bastards. Muslims doing this. In the name of what? Not of Islam. In the name of white supremacy. And when we tell y'all, not all skin folk is kinfolk, y'all got the nerve to ask us, oh, but that brother, he's black. That Colin Green eating brother, he's a black too. Why can't you be more like him? Oh, you see it now? You see it now? Since Pakistan's inception, Not a single prime minister finished an entire term. Not one. Not a single one. And y'all are out in the streets trying to expedite your deportations. What do you mean, Bilal? What do you mean they're trying to expedite their deportations?
कदम बढ़ाओ इमरान खान हम तुम्हारे साथ हैं कदम बढ़ाओ इमरान खान हम तुम्हारे साथ हैं मेरी जान इमरान खान
That's how you try to expedite your deportations, like that. You legit, in the month of Ramadan, gather together in Ramadan, mind you, time you could be using to read Quran. Instead of complaining to Allah, you're complaining to the enemy about what the enemy's friend, your other enemy, has done to you want the friend of the enemy to intercede on behalf of you, on behalf of your other enemy. You know how crazy you look? Do you realize how crazy and silly you look right now? Zaddy basically told you, we're going to tell you who your leader is. Zaddy did it with no dust, with not even, no Vaseline, okay? Zaddy was rough with it. He's telling you exactly who your leader is going to be. And you're out there talking about democratic process. A brother, good brother, he texted me on WhatsApp and he told me, Pakistan elected a new prime minister. I said, there was no prime minister elected in Pakistan. A prime minister wasn't elected in Pakistan. A prime minister was selected. And it wasn't even smooth about it. People didn't vote that person in. It was handpicked by White Zaddy. Y'all hearing me? Now do you see what black folks have been telling you all this time? We've been telling you for a long time. A long time we've been telling you this.
Brothers, we're not black. Let's stop talking like we're black.
Well, you're black now. You're black now, so you better start talking like you're black. You became black when your prime minister was ousted and they put a new puppet in his place. What was that?
Brothers, we're not black. Let's stop talking like we're black.
I beg to differ. I beg to differ. I beg to differ.
Convince both the Indians and the Pakis there's a way to deal with their problems without going to war.
Yep, there's a way to deal. The Indians and the Pakis to deal with their problems without going to war, according to George Bush. That's what they think about you. And you love them. them so much. And has the veil been unveiled from your eyes now? Y'all are straight tripping.
रॉबर्ट हुरान ने याद है कहा था कि पाकिस्तानी वो बेगैरत कौम है कि अपने माओं को भी बेच देते हैं। बिल्कुल। रॉबर्ट हुरान ने याद है कहा था कि पाकिस्तानी वो बेगैरत कौम है कि अपने माओं को भी बेच देते हैं। बिल्कुल।
You know what a sellout is now? Not all skin folk is kinfolk. Do you see what I see? So anyways, family, why is this important for black folk? Like, why should black people even care? You know what I mean? Even Muslims, why Muslims at large, why should they care? I'll tell you what. The largest expat group from any Muslim nation just happens to be Pakistanis. Okay? We said before that, and we pulled up the receipts, that the people of South Asia, they basically got classified as Caucasian in the West. Why is this important? Because black folk, what's going to end up happening is 100% there's going to be an economic earthquake, like a disaster in Pakistan. This economic disaster will then cause more expatriates to leave Pakistan. And do you remember what happened with Afghanistan? Do you remember how Jim Crow Joe basically said, yeah, we're going to take a few thousand of you Afghanis as refugees and whatnot. The Ukrainians, and I called it, call me Negro Donis. I called it to a T, all right? I said this, and I'm almost quoting word for word. I said, if I had to guess, the United States will use this opportunity between Ukraine and Russia to do two things. The first is to sell weapons or to provide weapons to Ukraine and to bring in Ukrainian refugees in order to replenish the white population. Did they do it? Did it do both A and B? The answer is yes. They're going to do the same thing with Pakistanis. Okay, there's going to be a flood, and you know how brothers from Pakistan will do anything for a visa. Okay, they will do anything for a visa. We put out in the convert profiles how Pakistanis benefited from affirmative action programs, affirmative action specifically designed for black folk. Specifically, they came in, benefited from it, and locked black people out of it. The same program that black people are supposed to get. And it's going to be the same thing again. And black folk are about a beard hair's width from being completely and totally locked out and participating in any capitalist economy because of this demographic shift that is coming. You've seen how they're telling Haitians, oh, you better kick that rubber boat back to Haiti. You seen that? But not only this, let me show you something. You think it's jokes. These people are not messing around. Yes, it would have a drastic effect on African Americans. You're already being locked out of building masajid from your Muslim brothers in the West. We put that out there. This is coming. It's 100% it's coming. Okay? But anyways, let me just try to find it here. You think these people are not messing around. You think it's these people? Huh. You guys aren't, black folk, you're not even pawns on the chessboard. You know what you guys are? You're the felt underneath the pawns on the chessboard. Y'all hearing me? And if you don't get it together, you're going to see slavery round 2. Y'all play too much. Don't play with me. Been doing this for a long time. And it's not that I have a crystal ball or nothing. No, it's if you study history, you're going to see the patterns. It's the same thing over and over and over again. That's all it is. You think I'm joking about this demographic shift? You think I'm joking about being permanently locked up? Republican Party lovers, all right? You think it's a joke? Watch now. Like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Patreon.
Compassion may be infinite, but our capacity to help people is not. So from today, our new migration and economic development partnership will mean that anyone entering the UK illegally, as well as those who have arrived illegally since January the 1st, may now be relocated to Rwanda. This innovative approach, driven by our shared humanity.
Did you hear what this cracker said? It's Ramadan. Bilal, calm down. Calm down, Bilal. We know you don't like the white supremacists. We know that you think that we know that they're devils. Not you think. We know 100% these are devils wrapped in human-looking skin and hair on top of their heads. We know, but just relax. Just relax. I'm going to rewind that so y'all can hear it again, okay? You think it's just by chance this came out today? Just a couple of days after whatchamacallit? The new prime minister in Pakistan? You think that's a fluke? They are telling you we don't want Negroes up in here, okay? They're making it very clear. We got to make room for the Ukrainians, and we got to make room for the Afghanis, and we got to make room for the Pakistanis now. And black folk, we're going to set you up there in Rwanda. Like, subscribe, share, hit me up on Patreon. Let's rewind that.
Anyone entering the UK illegally, as well as those who have arrived illegally since January the 1st, may now be relocated to Rwanda. This innovative approach, driven by our shared humanitarian impulse and made possible by Brexit freedoms, will provide safe and legal routes for asylum while disrupting the business model of the gangs. Because it means that economic migrants taking advantage of the asylum system will not get to stay in the UK, while those in genuine need will be properly protected, including with access to legal services on arrival in Rwanda, and given the opportunity to build a new life in that dynamic country, supported by the funding we are providing. The deal we've done is uncapped, and Rwanda will have the capacity to resettle tens of thousands of people in the years ahead. We're confident that our new migration partnership is fully compliant with our international legal obligations. But nevertheless, we expect this will be challenged in the courts. And if this country is seen as a soft touch for illegal migration by some of our partners, it is precisely because we have such a formidable army of politically motivated lawyers who for years have made it their business to thwart removals and frustrate the government. So I know that this system will not take effect overnight, but I promise that we will do whatever it takes to deliver this new approach.
This is gonna spread. You watch. Nazis right now are in Europe, and when I say Nazi, I don't mean the neo-Nazi, I mean the Nazi presidents and prime ministers of Europe are looking at Boris Johnson like, you mean we can keep those bone-in-the-nose Africans in Africa? Ingenious. Ingenious. That's what it's gonna be like. Red Epty, he just says Somalia had a genocide in the 90s, but it's often portrayed as a civil war only. You see what Boris Johnson just said? Somalia is going to be a closed for business. Okay. Oh, this is so crazy, man. You thought that you were just the family members in the family of humanity. There's humanity, and then there's these people. There are human beings, and then there's that. Human-looking things. Human shape, and maybe they bleed red, maybe. I'm pretty sure that, Boris Johnson, he bleed red and stuff, okay? Human-looking beings and looking things, but they are not humans, nor do they consider you anything remotely close to human. Which is why they feel that they have the right to do anything that they want to with you. Did you get the message, Pakistan? Did you get the message? Was it loud and clear now? Zaddy, who you love so much, he don't really feel the same way. This is so insane, man. It's so insane. Let's get some guests up in here. I'm going to leave the link. I'm going to leave the link in the chat. Anybody want to have any comments? Yes, this is coming. The other thing that's coming because of what's happening in Pakistan, this is even more important, other than the demographic shift, is that you are going to see, and I don't think it's going to be very long, actually, you're going to see a collapse of the US dollar. And when that happens, the poop is going to hit the fan. The only reason why the US dollar is being propped up right now, China don't like the US. They made it very clear, right? But because the USD is so intertwined in so many economies, because of the IMF, because of the World Bank, because of the US aid, and all of these predatory international monetary industries, if you want to call them, these people that offer these so-called third world countries loans in order to improve their infrastructure with promises of wealth and whatnot. But the entire goal is to give contracts to Western corporations so that they can get rich and to impoverish and enslave the populations of these people. At the same time, using austerity measures to usurp the resources of those same countries. That's all it is. It's a hustle. It's an elaborate hustle, but a hustle nonetheless. And the reason why they're able to carry out this hustle time and time again, because like I said, a part of the weapon is tall white men in suits. Anything a tall white man in a suit tells you, you're going to believe it. When Bilal tells you, oh, Bilal, he is over the top. Oh, Bilal is mentally unstable. I got that one too, actually. I literally got that one too. I'm not. I mean, my wife drives me crazy, but other than that, no. This is the real me. You know, all kinds of nonsense. Now, what you got to say? I really want to know what you got to say. Protesting in the street. Because a protest is going to bring Imran Khan back. Right. You win the month where you can protest to Allah directly, you're protesting in the streets. Y'all are some tripping people. But anyways, Jazakallah khair for everybody who joined me. Is getting, I know some of y'all want to go and make your iftars and whatnot. But as you can see, this is a major thing. It's going to hit the world like I don't even know, man. The world right now is in a terrible place. Black folk are at the bottom. Dang, the felt at the bottom. Yeah, yep. That's what we are. Not even the ponds. We are the felt at the bottom of the ponds. And we are about to be permanently locked out of the global economy. Permanently. Y'all feeling me? So, if we don't get it together, and the number one thing is first, we have to get close to Allah. Salaam Alaikum, Brother Hanif.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
How are you doing, Sheikh?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair. Thanks for blessing us with your voice today. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. What you got for us, Sheikh?
Well, I was just listening with regards to the immigration issue and the accumulation of numbers.
Yes.
To push people out. This is an issue that Dr. Claude Anderson and many have been trying to wake us up to for a long time. And unfortunately, as I mentioned in the comments, we're not studying the history to see where we are at presently.
Yes.
Nor are we studying history to help us navigate today. So what happens is we keep doing the same thing over and over, basically not preparing and not accepting realities, certain realities of what they really are. That is the issue of being locked out of capitalism in the United States.
Yep.
And so we don't try to do anything with regards to coming together. Even something as simple as co-oping, like the people are doing down in Mississippi with the Operation Jackson. You know, they've developed a system where people set up their own co-op.
Yep.
And these are things that we will have to do. Or the African-American families who got together, the 12 African-American families who got together and purchased 97 acres. These are things you're going to have to do. And as we mentioned when we did the program on gentrification, the problem with us is we don't try to purify ourselves from our conditioning and from the bad behaviors that we've accumulated due to our conditioning and our programming. It's a huge problem with us. So therefore, we constantly get pushed down the totem pole, so to speak, when new immigrants come in.
Yep. That's intentional. That's
exactly.
intentional. That's so, you talked about this extensively when you talked about redlining, right? And mind you, redlining and apartheid, and this is it's the same system. Redlining is apartheid, right? It's essentially what you're doing is that you are grouping entire, mostly darker skins.
Thank you very much for coming. It's very, very good to be here in Lille on an absolutely beautiful day.
Is that me or you? Oh, yes, it's me. I'm sorry. All right. I was like, what? Yeah. So redlining, there's a system. What it does, it locks groups of people, mostly darker skinned people, in certain areas. And how the economy is fueled by bank loans and debt, right? So what happens is when the government wants to fuel the economy, the government itself will say, okay, basically we have this type of public project, like a highway or a power plant or something like this, right? And this public project requires public money, and people will get loans in order to buy homes to get the jobs in these places so that they can, essentially, build up wealth, right? Black people are locked out of that system. How is it done? If you live in a certain area, if you have a certain area code, when you go to get a bank loan, the bank will essentially say, oh, you live in this area code, you can have this loan at 30% interest, right? If you want it, right? So predatory loans, you understand? And of course, Black people can't do that. They just get completely locked out. You understand? And then in this way, they can say, oh, it's not racism. It's just because you're from a bad area. You get it? Right. But anyway, you know that more than me. I just mentioned it to the audience.
Yeah, no doubt. But another issue is with regards to the Muslim. When Allah tells us to enter into Islam wholeheartedly, right? And this encompasses every aspect of the deen. And one particular area that I'm concerned with is this brotherhood. And due to the fact that our level of practicing the Islamic brotherhood is tainted, this also plays another role in why Muslims are stagnant here in the United States. They won't pull their resources together across ethnic lines. I'll give you an example to prove my point, since we're on the issue of economics.
Yeah.
We're talking about the various refugees that come to the United States. Now, the Muslims that are already here, I'm talking about the African Americans, European Americans, immigrants that were already here, children of immigrants, all of them. What's amazing to me is that we don't come together, the various masajid come together, or the various organizations come together and split off and become corporations, wherein they can buy up land, buy buildings, right? So that when refugees come, you can house your own refugees from the lands of the Muslims. When the Muslims are having problems with drugs and the likes, addiction, or domestic disputes, and our women are homeless with children, we should provide them a place to live. Why? Because we would have already come together and accumulated properties for the benefit of our brothers and sisters. Now that's just on the
Sheikh, that would be the smart thing to do, but you know, as Allah says in the Quran, the enemy, they plot and plan, but Allah plots and plans, and Allah is the best of planners, right? So
indeed,
when immigrants come here, right, what does make a difference what country they're in? If it's a Western country, there's always a racial classification, including in Canada. Okay, so based upon this racial classification, these immigrants can now get certain benefits based upon what they put as their race. You understand?
Indeed.
So now that's why immigrants put back in the day when Islam was just kind of like newish, we didn't have this issue. But as more immigrants started coming, we started seeing the rise of the ethnic masjid. Why is that? It's because when they classify themselves, for example, when they get classified as Caucasian, they can now get the benefits of going to a bank, right? Getting a loan, which they do, okay? Getting a REBA-based loan to buy a home, to get tuition, as Brother Kevdi, and may Allah reward Brother Kevdi, Hayakum Allah, may Allah bless you with it and multiply it for you 1,000-fold and raise your ranks and Jannah, Ameen by it, Ameen. Ameen. Everybody say Ameen. Okay.
Ameen.
All right. So now, immigrants, when they come here, they benefit. The programs that were meant for Black folk, like we mentioned, affirmative action, which was specifically for Black people. What did your benevolent government tell you? Well, we're going to make it for all, underprivileged people. Who's underprivileged people? Anybody who is not a white man. If he's not a white man, they can benefit from it. So, as Dr. Claude Anderson said, the Hispanics can benefit from it, the Pakistanis can benefit from it, the humpbacks, the LGBTQ, everybody. And the major recipient of Black programs just happens to be white women. White women.
Indeed.
All right. So that's why, because they have an incentive to not unite because of these because of selling out. Selling out incentivizes them not to unite with other Muslim groups. So we as Black folk, we need to stop playing around. We got to stop. We are the most brotherly people in the ummah. Nobody can out-brother us. And we are also the most quick to stand up for Islam and human rights. And all. The first one, and always in the front lines. And with anybody. Don't make a difference. Palestinians, Uyghurs, Rohingya, Syrians. We are right there in the front every single time. And when it comes to our stuff, we don't find any support at all. And we got to stop playing that game. You know what I mean? We got to depend on Allah and Allah alone and stop asking other people groups to come support us because they won't.
Yeah, this seems to be the trend, no doubt about it. For the past, I can say 30 years.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, this seems to be the trend. But now, here comes another issue, and that's with regards to our people. And like I say, I keep going back to, we have many issues that we have to work out as a result of our conditioning and brainwashing from slavery, and that was the legal slavery, and then the somewhat illegal slavery that happened after the Emancipation Proclamation, and the likes and the discrimination through the years. We have to work through that stuff because unfortunately we have developed many self-deprecating behaviors.
100%.
You know, so we have to work on those things. And I harp on this all the time. You know, you constantly hear the Muslims quoting Sheikh al-Albani, the Salafis quoting Sheikh al-Albani, Tasfiyah wa Tarbi. Yeah, that takes work. And you have to do that. You have to do that. Or in other circles, Tazkiyah to Nafs, right? Yeah, you have to do that. And until we do that, then we're going to continue to be stagnant, inactive. And this is one of our main problems, inaction.
Yes. And ironically, Sheikh, Islam just happens to be the real solution. But the issue with Black folk is that we started practicing Islam like Christianity. You understand? Instead of taking on real Islam, we started using our Christian past to practice Islam. And what was our Christian past? Some other foreign group will dictate to us, right, what we should believe. So our Christian past, white folks were telling us white Jesus, okay, right? And Christmas and Easter. And inshallah, maybe I'll do an Easter video tomorrow. Did Jesus die on the cross, right? I'll think about it, inshallah. But I was thinking about it. I think it would be good, right? Because I really haven't tackled like religious subjects like that. But yeah, but inshallah. But anyway, that's a different thing, right? When we came to Islam, what did we do? Rabbi Christ medically.
Right.
You understand? We took marching orders from a foreigner from Britain, Abu Khadija, right?
Right.
Right. We took marching orders from him. You know, always some other person. And ironically, Black people have the most tulab al-ilm in the West, more than any other group. And we don't pay attention to them. We got to pay attention to some other people.
Again, even with what you're saying with that, again, that plays right into the point that I was making with regards to conditioning. Because even with what you're saying with regards to that being driven by another group also finds its place in history with the Black preacher, right? Yeah. Where he taught that the slaves
who was the driving force behind the Black preacher to begin with?
Right, the slave master.
The Black church was birthed in white supremacy.
Right.
And that's why the Black church has always been a proxy to pacify Black folk.
Right. Let me just answer this, Tiffany Watson.
Go ahead.
Well, what is the solutions? That's the solution. You have to work. You have to work on whatever issues you have. That's the solution. You have to start with you first, and then ascertain who is of like mind. You discuss issues that's going on, that's prevalent in your community, what's happening to your community, and then you formulate plans. Of course, you got to educate. You have to educate yourself as well. You know, how are we going to do it? How serious are we in trying to do these things? You understand? Because again, we have to figure out, with the help of Allah, we have to figure out what behaviors we have that stems from slavery and the likes, or behavior that stems from internalizing racism, like the old studies by the Clarks, the dolls, right? The black and the white doll. Many times we find African Americans like the crab in the barrel syndrome. Dr. Joy DeGruy talks about in her book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. You have to work on these things. Do I have those things? Do I have those issues? Did you call on Allah to rid you of those issues? What role does the shaitan play in those issues? This is what you have to do. I mean, you may have to go back to some of the books of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, the diseases of the heart and its cures, and analyze yourself. I keep saying this muhasaba, this aspect of our deen, muhasaba, taking yourself to account.
Yeah, that right there.
Yeah, you have to do that. But after you do that,
you have to be accountable. You have to take accountability.
Yeah, right. But after
black folk are incredibly critical, but they have a weakness in being critical of themselves. Right? I mean, we have to be more critical of ourselves. Before you open your mouth and criticize other people, look at yourself first.
Right.
Right. In the book, what is it? I have it here. 1 second. This book right here. This book. The 48 Laws of Power. Okay.
Yeah, he has quite a few books in this series. Like
yes,
that.
And they're high powered, right? If you need to understand the mindset of the enemy and how to actually develop yourself, you need these type of books, right? So, but you have to be the first person you're going to criticize is yourself, and you have to be able to take criticism without getting emotional. You have to, and he mentions that in the book. Actually, he says when a leader, when they're receiving criticism, they have to remove themselves from the situation and look at it objectively.
Right.
Right.
That is correct.
So, in terms of solutions and how we can avoid being locked out, practical solutions include, of course, the accountability. We mentioned that, right? This is because if you're not right internally, everything else really doesn't matter, right?
Right.
Group economics is incredibly important.
Yes, sir.
Incredibly important. Long-term planning, planning and sticking with it is incredibly important. Black people are probably the weakest at all the people in long-term planning, right? We can't see past 5 minutes. We need everything now, right? Right. And also community organizing. That's incredibly important. If you have community, right? And I'm not talking about neighborhoods, because Black people, they live in neighborhoods, not communities. Dr. Clyde Anderson, he says all the time. You live in neighborhoods, not communities. If you're a community, then when your child goes out and your neighbor disciplines your child for doing something crazy, you're not going to have a problem with it.
It's how I grew up.
Yeah, that's how we grew up, right? You know what I mean? Right. As a matter of fact, if my neighbor disciplined me, right, and I would go home and get another disciplining from my parents.
Yes, sir. Get it again.
Right? Yeah, you get it again, right? For embarrassing your parents, right? So, but this generation coming up, there's none of that, right? Don't touch my child. Don't talk to my child. You can't even tell somebody, what are you doing with your children when they're, this right here, if you continue down that path, what it does is that it trains your mind to go and always seek dopamine. And when you're always seeking dopamine, right? When everything is about your desires and your pleasures, you're easy to enslave. And of course you're going to be locked out. Right? You have to train yourself in discipline, being disciplined, and but anyways, group economics, community. What is the other thing I said? Group economics, community, accountability.
Accountability.
Yeah. Accountability, right? And so the government's not gonna do anything for us. So I know that we deserve reparations, but if you think you're gonna get reparations, you got another thing coming.
Right.
So it's better to be independent now under the shade of Allah's throne, right? Doing everything for the sake of Allah, and then Allah will give you that success. Right. but we need our own independent type of movement and thinking instead of running behind other people saying, "Oh, let's unite with you," right? They will unite with you as long as you're spending money in their bazaars and stuff.
Right.
No problem.
And I will say I'll make this last point also.
Go ahead, Sheikh.
Due to our economic reality as a people, this is something I say all the time in my work and just in the various hoods right here in Durham. Is for the most part, our people have no choice but to come together and pull their resources together. There is no other way.
There is no other way.
You can fool yourself with this Eurocentric hyper-individualism if you like. You can fool yourself into that. But as I've always said in many videos and many talks, that this hyper-individualism that exists, this Eurocentric view of hyper-individualism, it does not work for our people. We are a communal people. This is a reality. We're a communal people. So we have to utilize the consciousness that Allah had already decreed for us instead of utilizing someone else's consciousness, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
the way I see it, Sheikh, is like this. Allah gave us this huge, incredible puzzle to solve, right, with this white supremacy.
Right.
And he also gave us the solution to solve this puzzle, right? Can you imagine now? We solved this puzzle. The only way we're solving it is through Allah. How Allah's name will be lifted. And I believe that we can do this. I don't see any reason why we can't. We have the Quran, we have the Sunnah, right? Why are we looking at the enemy like there's some sort of God or something? We were looking at them like that because of Jesus, right?
Right.
Right, but they're not, right? They're not.
And that's true. And that's true. And the proof of that is, even when you look throughout history, you had small numbers, of groups that were able to withstand their onslaught. Like right here in the United States, there's a group called the Black Seminoles.
Yep, the Black Seminoles. The
Black Seminoles. And the Black Seminoles are one of two of the only groups that fought against the U.S. government and basically won. It fought them for 99 years. When you studied the Seminole Wars, or some call it the Gullah Wars, because the people who are Gullah Geechee, that's who blended with the Seminoles.
Yes.
So at any rate, it's a lot you can learn from that history.
Yes.
And John Horse, who was the leader of them, half Seminole, half African, he led the people all the way to Mexico, and still there to this day. So the point, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is to basically shed more light on the statement you made with regards to how we look at them. We just have to be laser focused, and we have to have a sense of self-preservation.
Yes.
But within this self-preservation, you have to do this strictly for the pleasure of Allah.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? And that's with regards to the Muslims. Now, with regards to the non-Muslims, that's another issue. But since our audience is primarily Muslim, we still have to utilize Tawheed. We still have to apply Tawheed, not theoretically talk about it, but genuinely apply Tawheed and carry it out. And whether that is staying up at night, Rasulullah alayhi salatu salam, when it was going through oppression, increased his tahajjud. This is what we have to do.
Yep. That's exactly what we have to do. And you can imagine now, if we just start getting on code all the distractions that are taking you, you know, away from your path. Just get rid of it. You know what I mean? Like we're in the month of Ramadan right now. The majority of us need to be fasting from Facebook more than we need to be fasting from food. Let's be real, right? Social media is just it's a big investment in your mental slavery, right? And it's a big divestment in your mental health. You know what I mean? And if you can't put down your phones, and you have to comment, you have to share and like and do this thing like all day long, you have a mental problem, right? Right? And how is a person that does this all day, right, going to bring victory to the Ummah and Islam and, you know, freedom, not even freedom. I want more than freedom for Black folk, man. I want independence. You know what I mean? Who's going to bring, who's doing this and bring us anything that resembles independence? You know what I mean? But the person who does this, you know, late at night and begs Allah, you watch. You watch. Jazakallah khair. Hayakum Allah, brother Bilal. Hayakum Allah. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi. I pray we are leveling up in our. That's what we need to do. We all need to level up. Every day needs to be a level. And Ramadan is a perfect opportunity to level up. May Allah reward you and bless you and multiply it for you 1,000-fold. Ameen. Everybody say Ameen.
Ameen.
Okay, Sheikh, I'll leave you with the last words, and then we'll close that because people got to prepare their food.
Indeed. In closing, what I just mentioned, we really have to critically take a look at ourselves and our communities. Mm-hmm. And we also have to physically get involved, not stay in a bubble, mm-hmm. but physically get involved, whether it's volunteering or whatever the case may be. Just grassroots stuff. Mm-hmm. Grassroots stuff. So if the people get more involved, then you're on the ground. Mm-hmm. You can see what's happening. You'll have a first-hand account. And that would, inshallah, inspire you to get with like-minded people when you can come together. But indeed, you know, this issue, this is something we have to work on. We have to figure out some kind of way to unite, you know, with regards to
even figuring out is like, it's really
not that hard though.
It's not that hard because especially with our history, we know that the infiltrators will come. So all we got to do is stay on code, and that's it. When the infiltrators come, it's going to be so easy to pick out. Because
I don't even worry. I don't even worry about them because you know I look at people like Thomas Sowell and Candace Owens, you know, who use their academic prowess to always prove the other side, right? So that's going to be a reality. We've always had that, you know, since the time of the house and the field. You know what? Yeah. So we've always had that. So this is a reality. If you know history, you already know that. So my issue is how to remain laser focused when you know the facts and the other side is trying to manipulate the facts. This is the issue, you know, because that can get you sidetracked. You know, and this is why I say what I say with regards to being laser focused and people pulling their resources together, because there is no other way. Individually, you know, you can't make too much happen individually. Not saying the individual can't change things, but the individual, in most cases, the individual motivates others to participate. Then the change happens. So the moment we realize that from an economic standpoint, we have to pull our resources together and work on our issues. Then that's when you'll see the change. Other than that, you know, I can't stress that enough. Other than that, it's just a waste of time. So I'll end with that, man. Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you, Sheikh. Thank you, Sheikh. We got to do another Alpha Brigade, inshallah.
Oh yeah, inshallah.
We got to do another one.
We'll get that on, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. We got to get that on. Individuals don't change things. It takes group effort of like-minded, loyal people to make change, and it's not a one-man thing. Jazakallah khair, brother Ibrahim Johnson. I want to thank everybody for joining me. I know you took your time out of your Ramadan, and may Allah bless you all for joining me. I want to ask Allah to bless all of you, to bless our brother Hanif, to bless the brother Bilal, and the brother Kevin for donating. And if you want to support this channel, go to Patreon and support this channel. It really helps, and it's appreciated. For my day ones, you know that people shut us down. They didn't try. They legit shut this channel down, right? Which is why that was the thing that got me starting the Patreon, because I put a lot of work into these videos, right? And people will try to shut us down again. It's just a inevitable thing. So when you support this channel, you are supporting. It's like you're supporting yourself, because I don't know any other channel that's doing this stuff, right? So, but Jazakallah khair, hayakum Allah. May Allah bless all of you and accept your fast. Subhanaka bihamdik wa shadu li ant wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.